Hey there, YouTube friends. Maskedbandit here. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. I always do appreciate it. And welcome back to Planet Zoo. Specifically, welcome back to Emerald Gardens, the solo project on the channel. And it is episode 3, and we finally get an animal. Yay! I know. Planet Zoo game, been out for 2 weeks, just now putting an animal in. That's kind of how I roll. But my reasoning is sound. I wanted it to look good before we put the animals in, because I want those animals to be so very happy. No, really, I mean, I played the beta and got animals immediately because it was the beta, and I wanted to push it and see as much as I could see in the minimal time we had. Now that I've got as long as I want, and this game is now mine, I can kind of take my time with it. And that's how I build. I take my time with it. I wanted to get the vibe down. I wanted to get ideas in my head so I could execute them well. That being said, this is a foreign concept to me, making an animal enclosure. Like, I did it in the beta. Again, going back to the beta. I did it, and it looked okay, but I want it to look good. And I don't have a decade's worth of building zoos like I do like I do roller coasters and theme parks. I mean, this is my first zoo game ever playing. I don't know if I mentioned that. I never played Zoo Tycoon 1 or 2. I don't think I've ever played any. I don't even know if there's other zoo games out there. This is the first time I've taken the plunge into one of these into a zoo game. And I mean, I played Jurassic World Evolution, but I mean, that hardly counts if you ask me. So this is totally a foreign idea. I'm pretty good. I have a pretty good aesthetic when it comes to theme park design, realistic theme park design. I kind of know I've been doing it long enough. This, however, making it look realistic and still feel right, but at the same time look good, and that's way trickier for me, and that's why it's taken me a little bit of time. I was a little nervous. I was a little scared. It sounds so dumb. I was a little apprehensive to get going on this until I had a sound idea. So, and then I got the whole idea with the whole issue with the terrain. And I have if you are unfamiliar with my Planet Coaster work, I have a park. It's on the channel. You can check it out. It's called Conifer Slopes, and that's a project that's been around since 2007 in Roller Coaster Tycoon 3. Anyway, it's called Conifer Slopes. It's as flat as a pancake. Like, there is no terrain shift in that at all. None of the parks I work on really have terrain shifts, at least not the solo projects. So I knew that wasn't going to be able to happen with Zoo. I knew I was going to have terrain shifts, and on top of that, this project takes place in the Pacific Northwest, where especially like far wet, like near the coast. So we're talking not flat. And I knew I was going to be having to do a lot of terrain work, and I actually cut out most of it because it's just tedious, and I delete so much, and I actually chopped out a lot. I actually didn't record a lot because I was so apprehensive. The way I roll is when I'm a little nervous and a little concerned, I don't record until I know that I'm on a path where it's going to look good. You'll notice we have an animal. Check it out. We have Pronghorn. And I noticed immediately how absolutely ridiculously huge this exhibit was. I want animal welfare to be at the forefront because that's what they're really plugging with the game. And I want this to feel like a modern zoo that is doing everything it can to take care of animals and their habitats. At the same time, I want it to feel like a legitimate zoo and not just this oversized, these oversized habitats and stuff. So while the pronghorns are in there, I actually decreased their habitat size quite a bit. So this is how I build. I build the rough outline of the exhibit, and then I throw the animals in there, and then I cater it to their needs. And pronghorn are pretty easy. They're pretty easy going. They don't really care. They need some food and some water, and that's about it. They really are easy to take care of. They were great. I really struggled with what the first choice of my animal was going to be. I'm glad I picked them. They are pretty good. The issue I have is that once I get their welfare up to 100%, I essentially ignore them. And they've been breeding like crazy, and I'm pretty sure they're pretty inbred. But Sandbox, don't really care. I am keeping a lot of the animal stuff on. You can turn some of it off in Sandbox. I'm keeping the fighting on. I'm keeping aging, death, birth. I'm keeping all that on. Just, it adds. To me, it adds enough. And to me, that's the least management. I know it's stupid to say, but that's the least management heavy part of the game. I mean, you gotta feed them. You can't not feed them. I'd much rather have it where you don't need to have, oh, pardon me, I got the hiccups. Oh, goodness. I'm going to have to start this over again, probably. I hope not. You got the part I'd much rather see utilities gone. I mean, that's what I'd love to see in the sandbox. Get rid of the utility requirements. I don't want power and water requirements. Give me everything turned off so that just give me the option to be able to do what I want. It's a little rough. So I'm actually taking a lot of hints here, what I'm building here. Watched Mike Sheets' garden rescue for John Tees Park. I forget the name of John Tees Park. Super cool, his taiga with the bears and all that. Mike went in and built a cliff, and he showed some great techniques on how to make a cliff face. And I figured that this could be like maybe at one point partially natural and then continued it man-made around the exhibit. But I like the way this came out as a hard border for our exhibit. And I also kind of like the shape of this exhibit, this quasi-horseshoe shape of the exhibit. I think it turned out really, really well. It gives a wide area for guests to look at, but it also gives the pronghorn enough room to go back into their little house and back away from the people if they want to kind of get away from the eyeballs. Because I know that in a lot of current zoos, it's rectangular pens, and I actually did that in the beta. Rectangular pens without many places to get away from people. I wanted to make sure that the animals had that, and I wanted to replicate as closely as I could what their natural habitat would be. And speaking of, I did do some research. Pronghorns, obviously, are the only, and they're technically not antelope, I guess, but they are the only antelope-type creature in the United States. And I learned that they cannot jump. That really boggled my mind. Fences are really hard for pronghorn, which makes this really unrealistic because my pronghorn kept jumping out of my damn habitat, and they don't know how to jump in real life. They are incapable of jumping. If in the wild a herd of pronghorn encounter a fence, they will run the length of the fence until they find a small section under the fencing where they can crawl under. So rather than jump over like a deer or an elk, they'll try to crawl under fencing. And it's really a big problem for them, especially when they're being chased by predators like, say, wolves. It's kind of a dead end for them. And if they don't have an easy way to get under the fences, they're pretty much dead meat. They're just standing there. So I thought that was really, really interesting. And then it kind of bummed me out because it's clear then, I wonder if this is just kind of a reskin of the other antelope in the game, or of some of the other animals that can jump. Like, all about realism. I don't want to be throwing shade, but if they're all about realism, like, that's a pretty big thing that these animals don't know how to jump. So anyway, that's fine. I did look in the San Diego. I looked at the San Diego Zoo. They have a whole habitat that has like desert animals, and pronghorn can be found in the desert, even though they're more likely to be found in the grasslands. But they have like camels. It's a shared habitat with a bunch of other animals, and they had this cool little natural rock entrance area. And it was really small, and I tried, like, the entrance was really small, and I tried to make mine like that, but the game didn't like that. The animals couldn't get through there. Like, I understand, like, the keeper, I was actually going to put a keeper door off to the side, and it just didn't work out. I had to make it a little bit bigger than I wanted, but, you know, I'm used to that with Planet Coaster. The scale's always a little wacky. So I also wanted to include a larger, like, nighttime house for the animals, because as far as I know, animals all go indoors at nighttime, and then they get released, like for beds, and then they get released into their habitat during the day. And they always have access, and a lot of times they'll have access into their indoor portion of their habitat, especially during weather and all that kind of stuff. Stuff I'm sure most of you already know. But for me, I wanted to make sure that it looked like we could hold we have a fairly large number of pronghorn. I wanted to make it look like we could fit them all in there. Now, all that being said, the interior here is really, what's the word? Bad. It's a shell, and I'm not sure if I'm going to go back and redo it. I think I might have to. At the very least, I can do a better job of incorporating the facilities, the keeper huts, and the staff rooms and all that. And I want to do a better job with that, but after spending a lot of time on this habitat, it just got to a point where I just want to finish it. I just kind of want to finish it for now and move on. And I'd like to come back to it. I'm not sure we will. But I'm pretty proud of how this rock face looks. I think it looks pretty good. I think it does a good job of looking naturally artificial, if that makes sense. And what I really like, as silly as this is to say, I really enjoy that from the path, you can actually see the top of the animal house. One of the things that I've always noticed at zoos is they can always see parts of their backstage area. Maybe not the whole thing, but if you know where to look and you're paying attention, you'll notice. Like, zoos aren't nearly as tight about hiding backstage as some theme parks are. So I wanted to make sure that you could see, and it kind of cements it as a realistic zoo. The final little thing I did here for this exhibit was to add a little area here where peeps could walk and kind of enter, I guess, the exhibit. Go a little bit further in and maybe hopefully get a closer up look of the pronghorn. And it's a little simple cover structure, nothing fancy, just kind of dressing it up a little bit, making it feel a little more put together. And then after that, we put a pretty much done stamp on the exhibit, at least done enough that I could go ahead and show it to you in real time. Now, when I do show it to you in real time, you're going to have to remember that most of the rest of the area surrounding it is pretty much naked. So we're going to be focusing strictly on the habitat. So why don't we go ahead and have ourselves a little cut in the video, and I'll catch you on the other side, and we'll take a look at this at a much more relaxed pace. And here we are in real time, and check out the pronghorns. This is the semi-final product. I will probably still have to dress up that wall over there, but you can see it now in action. Whoa, big rock. Let me show you where this is at in relation to everything else. We'll take a look at the actual exhibit in a minute. So I actually cleared out all the trees. I'm going to put them back. But I do like how someone in the comments in the last episode, thank you for all the great comments, by the way, mentioned that we should clear out some of the trees so that the stag statues are a little more prominent, which, yeah, I think so, but at the same time, I want it to look and feel very lush. So anyway, you come up here, and actually, I put a path in over here where I anticipated the habitat to go, and just didn't end up that way. Instead, we brought it this way, and they're fighting for dominance. See, I know that people freak out when the animals fight, but all their welfare is good. So they occasionally fight to see who's going to be the alpha. They're the only two males in the herd. I think all the rest are female. Maybe we've got some juveniles. I don't know. And I'm okay with that. That's why I kept the fighting on. I kind of like it. I think it's more realistic. I like the way it looks. But anyway, here's that rock wall that they cannot jump or climb over. Actually, this rubbing post here, I saw Jonty do something really cool. He just used some logs to cover it up. And I liked that idea a lot. I might have to steal that from him. But I wanted this to still feel super filled in. I feel like we're missing the vibe by having such a clear blue sky. I mean, I know it exists in the Pacific Northwest, but I know it's much more likely to have a cloudy day, a rainy day. So anyway, here's the proper habitat. And you can see in the back there, we have, let me go down here. In the back, we have ourselves the little house they can come in and out of. And then behind that would be the main nighttime enclosure. So maybe during the day, if it gets too hot or if it's cold or whatever, they go in there and hang out. But at nighttime, they'll go in the big building. And I'm kind of glad you can see it that way. And I like how the rocks kind of frame it so that it doesn't look too out of place. And then here's a little cover. It is nothing special. But from my experience at zoos, these usually aren't exceptionally special. So you can see we've got a variety of feeders. We've got a variety of enrichments. Apparently, if you leave the enrichments in the habitat for too long, they get bored with them and their quality goes down, so you need to swap them out. I haven't noticed it big enough change that we actually have to do that, but it's one of the things. Look at the little baby. I like how they run around. I'm really happy. Oh, I just knocked the feeder. I'm really happy that they have enough. I'm really happy they have enough room to kind of let loose and run a bit. I mean, in the wild, these animals can run up to 65 miles an hour. This is insane to think about. And so to be able to give them that kind of room to stretch their legs just a little bit feels like something that a zoo that's, really trying to think of animal welfare would give them the opportunity. One of the things I also took from Jonty, we're using the dirt texture to put these little runs in. because animals would probably follow the same paths in an enclosure more often than not. And I actually I put them in before I started seeing the animals run around, and my goodness, they actually pretty much do run along the trails. I think it's really neat. It's a nice little way to add a lot of detail and a lot of realism to your enclosures. So why don't we actually go in the enclosure if I can get in there. Let's see here. Ugh. Nope. Ugh. It's not going to let me in. We'll go around. So we'll go around. We'll go up this really super gentle slope. Use some of the techniques that Mike Sheets and Ruble Trillions and some others have been using. So, oh, I didn't put a door in. I forgot to put a fake door in. But you can see, here's my interior. It is not great, but I know it's not. So I think it's okay. We have bedding. Excuse me. We have bedding in here for the animals who need it. I tried to keep the rock clipping to a minimum, but I kind of like this little peeky window here. I don't know. Maybe it's a little over the top for the animals, but got some grasses and shrubs. I'm kind of okay with some of the plantings not being what they would have in their habitat. Like that's okay to me. This food is gross. It needs to be changed. Hopefully a keeper will come do that soon. This food's gross too and also needs to be changed. I hope a keeper will come do that soon. But again, just really happy with how this turned out. The animals are all very happy, which is good, except for when they're dancing around stinky food. Please come clean that out. I have 2 keepers. Oh, that's a mechanic. I have 2 keepers, so I'm hopeful that they'll come fix that. So we're going to go probably feed the... What is that? Look at them! What is that? Come on, the terrain isn't that crazy. That's a little wonky. I don't appreciate that very much. That's a little silly. I'm so far okay with feeding. I haven't had any animals go hungry, nor have I seen them actually dump food in the tray. They tend to, just like Frontier said, they tend to put it in the enrichment items first, and then all the animals come and eat. That feels more realistic than just dumping it in the tray and then whenever they're hungry they eat. Like most zoos, I think, have a set feeding time. That would be a really cool way to do it, I think, is if you could you could set feeding times for the animals. It might help with your zookeeper management as well. Like, there he goes. He just kicked it down the hill. The problem is all my enrichment items end up in the trough here. This trough idea came from Ruble Trillions. I mean, it's a standard thing in zoos, but Ruble did it first. I watched his video to try and make sure that it looked like, when you're looking from the path, that you're looking straight on into the exhibit. And I made it before I knew that the pronghorns themselves didn't jump. But I still think it looks pretty okay. So, added this water scene. I prefer to have a water pool for the animals compared to a fountain. I have both, just so that we don't have any issues with it. So, but yeah, that's my little pronghorn exhibit. Let's hop out of the Tegid cam and take a look at it from the air. So here you go. Here's a overview of it all. Our pronghorn run. I think I'm gonna call this Pronghorn Hill. So we've got our hill here. The rock work here, what I tried to do is make sure that it did not really poke out too much here, because the idea is it eroded over time. Even if it's man-made, it eroded over time to expose the granite, and as opposed to just these huge rocks sticking out of the ground, as opposed to something over here where it's, they're protruding much higher. But at the same time, I think this looks pretty good. I think this looks pretty convincing. Love the strong overgrowth that we have going on here. So yeah, hopefully you think that this exhibit's pretty good too. I'm proud of it. I think it's pretty good for a first proper exhibit in Planet Zoo. I'm pretty happy with it. And the pronghorn seem to be really happy. So, all that being said, I think it's time to close here. We'll end with some pronghorn cinematics. And in the next episode, I think we'll try to fill in this area some more. Head this way. I'm thinking now that I've got this area here, I could really add an exhibit here and maybe put some backstage here and add an exhibit here. I kind of like that idea. What I kind of want to do also is turn this path underground and have a land bridge and open it up into a buffalo area here. So the pronghorn and buffalo could coexist, could mingle, because they go well together, have this sort of North American prairie expanse. And then it'd be really easy to squeeze grizzlies and wolves, which are other things I kind of want. I kind of want to hit the North American animals first, just because living here, it makes sense to me. Of course, that being said, I really want like gorillas, and I really want some lions. So I don't know. We're gonna see what we can see. But so far, I'm pretty happy with it, and hopefully you are too. If you enjoyed, hit the like button. You know what to do. If you're new, consider subscribing, and leave your feedback in the comments below. With all that being said, have yourself a great day, great night, great whatever, and I will see all of you for the next episode of Planet Zoo. Take care, everyone, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.